Good morning. How's my family? It's good to see you. It's good to see you up and around. Uh, Boy, it's been a busy weekend with Juneteenth and so many different things going on. A lot of celebration. A lot of time for reflection. Um, Excuse me. Let me start again. My name is Melvin Jackson, and I'm your anchor. I'm your brother. I'm also your messenger. Liken me to a personal trainer. My job is to do my best to take moments to look at ourselves and not be afraid of what we see, but knowing that we have work to do, and and then trying to become better. Me personally, a better man, a better husband, better servant to my father. Uh, I aspire to be better, to get better, to learn to be fearless when it comes to my faults, because I know there are many. But my challenge is me, and I sit before myself. So once again, let me introduce you to yourself by showing you myself, my weaknesses and my strengths, the things that I don't have and the things that I would like to have, my thinking and how I go about my everyday travel, if you will. One thing that kept standing out to me this weekend is how to be a man. What's the makeup of a man? God, in His greatness, made me to be what I am, and I am a man. It's a big title, but it comes that title with responsibilities. Like I mentioned earlier, good father, good leader, good example. Somebody asked me, what's your definition of a leader? One that will sacrifice himself, that would offer himself for my well-being. So many things come to mind, but let's just look at a couple of things. I'm talking to my brothers, but my sisters are welcome. And also my kids are welcome. When I say kids, young adults are welcome. Um, Sometimes it's good to see and look at what is expected of you and me um, as a person, what we bring to the table, what we take away from the table, things like that I think is important when I go to shape the character of who I want to be. We see a lot of examples before us, some good and some not so good. When I used to look at my father and I used to see his ways, I used to say to myself, when I get older and I ever become a father, I won't be like my father. I'll do the things that I think he overlooked. But then wisdom starts to play its role, and it says not so fast to judge a book by its cover, if you will. Unless you walked in your father's shoes, who are you to judge him, and how do you judge him? What do you use to judge him? The things you see, the things you like, and the things you don't like. It's like a giant ball. It's full of so many different parts. But once again, when I take a look a little closer, I should say, I start looking at one that leader, that is, that one is put in a position of responsibility. If I don't hold up my end and I'm not the leader that I try to make you believe I am, and I fail at so many things, um, part of my failure is maybe what you see me do. You say to the one that offers advice to you, uh, you say these things that you expect from me, but yet I don't see you do them. Um, that's a that's a can of worms by itself and a conversation by itself. But one has to start to look at themselves in terms of manhood. I'm speaking. Um, See what you make of yourself. Take a long, hard look, and don't be so fast to answer. Um, because when you look closer, sometimes you might learn a few things about yourself. Everything you see is not going to be good. It's like if I evaluated myself, I wonder how kind I would be to myself, forgiving my faults. Eh, Forgiving the faults are one thing, acknowledging the fault and making an effort to do away with the fault is a whole separate way of looking and doing things. When I'm fearless, here's a good example. If I judge what's before me, like I judge somebody else, it's very easy for me to render a judgment to what I see. But then when I put myself in that picture, all of a sudden a few things change. Like what? Like we're talking about me now. Well, if we take a measurement of what we see, and in all fairness, when we see things in ourselves, could I do it like this? In scripture, there's a part where David was told about what he was and what he was doing. God used the reflective mirror when the prophet came to him and told him a story of this person that had so much, and they had a friend come from a far distance. Back then, they would show hospitality, feed you, and make you feel comfortable. Sometimes spending the night with them till morning, and then you would leave in the morning. It was the way they would put themselves out for a guest. And this person had the guests come, and the story goes that he was well to do. He had more than he needed, but listen to the mindset. He sent his servant out to grab one lamb, if you will, from the neighbor and take the lamb, slaughter it, prepare it for his guests. I'm sorry, I don't like to use words like grimy, but when you're looking for description, I sort of thought that was kind of grimy. I mean, you got more than what you need. I think what it's just showing a depiction of one that's greedy and he had more than what he needs, but he took one. And then they described what that little lamb, if you will, meant to that family. The story goes that the father got the lamb for the child, and they were almost raised together. So much he hadn't even thought about ever making the lamb into food anymore because it became a part of their household. And the story said he loved the little lamb, almost sound like a pet, right? Little dog or something. And so the neighbor did this. David was king at the time, and the prophet was telling him about one that did that. David, the scripture said, became angry. Like, how dare this person like this that would do something like that? He could almost be put to death because of what he did. David rendered in his heart. David said that he should be punished. And so the story goes, when the prophet turned to him and he said, when you rendered the judgment on this one, he showed him the mirror. This one was you. God gave you everything you need, and you had more than what you need. But you lie down with another man's wife. Big violation. You have what you need. Why do you need to take something from somebody else? What does that say to the character? David was stricken because of what he did. He was ashamed. His conscience was shamed. And so the story go, that sometimes when you casting out things to other people, it's easier to criticize them. It's easier to find fault in them. It's easier to even to some point to say what he did is inexcusable. He should be, oh boy. Back then, like I said, he should have his head cut off. He should receive terrible punishment for what he did. But when I find that I'm looking in the mirror and I'm sentencing myself, the picture changed, because self-preservation kick in and it says, whoa, wait a minute now, okay, so I didn't know who we were talking about. But when the law was for everybody, then it was no special person that could be above the law of God. So again, when I look at the depiction of manhood and I see, if I could build it, you will, not the perfect man, but a good man, all of those qualities and character would be so important. One that can think out the box, one that's not rushed to judgment, one that takes the time to understand different situations, when to apply the strong arm of the Lord, if you would pardon my expression, and when to show leniency, when to be fair, and to give another chance. Because when you imagine sitting as a judge and you're supposed to wear these armbands, one is blind, a blinder, that you don't see who you're talking to, the scale that says this is justice, and we have to live by the truth of that justice. What is for one is for all. When I look at manhood, I want to be the best I can, and it has a lot of things to go along with it. There's times to be strong. There's times to be, I won't say weak, but sometimes to be, because strong is different definitions of the very word, in the sense of saying you want to be decisive, you want to be prepared, you want to be on duty, it's like almost feeling a position that's so important at the top of the company, because everything, if it's true, trickles down. That when they say things are done mindfully upstairs, then so like downstairs. It's not, it's not the other way around. It's when I start to really look at myself, if I'm ever going to get somewhere, I gotta go after what's in front of me. And if I don't like what I see, then I know I need to make a change, because my credibility is on the line. My dreams are on the line. Every part of my makeup is on the line. But I want to reach where I see my desire go, to be a better man. Sometimes that means, listen to how simple it is, but yet how hard it is. Sometimes I don't have to have the last word. My anger, my dismay for any given moment of a situation, and somebody say something that I feel is not appropriate, and I want to fire back every part of my expression and give you a piece of my mind, so you could clear your head, I can clear mine too. Some things about leaders, the better, the best part of them are not quick to anger as such, and they have learned the patience of not jumping the gun, taking their time. They know what they see before them. Like God, it He doesn't have to condemn us right away. He condemned the action, but he still helps us. He still listens to us. He's still a watcher over me. God don't give up on us. We could give up. I could give up on myself, but God don't give up on me. Those are levels beyond loyalty. This is the one that fashioned me, made me, put me together in my mother's womb, and allowed me the breath of life when I came out. I trust him with all I have. And when he give me these measurements, I'm not afraid of them in a sense of what I see, because it's a challenge for me to try to reach those places. I say often, a lot of things aren't doesn't happen overnight, nor should it, because it's the work and the part of the process that make me a better person. That shows me sometimes I gotta make a mistake to see how it is, not only to make a mistake, how I feel. Do I deserve another chance? If I condemn my brother, where do that leave me? In scripture, they speak of one that came before God, and two men was praying in the temple, and the one that heard the other one pray and and admit some of his shortcomings, he used his neighbor prayer to say to God, "But I'm not as bad as him." When he uttered that, he made himself as bad as his neighbor, because the neighbor confessed they're wrong, but they never said anything about him. Beloved, those characteristics, are in us. They're alive and well. They sit there for us to use them, but they're under use. We don't use them. And the narrow vision that we start to look at into focus of what we're talking about, what makes a good man, it's a lot of things in that. In separating a married man that has commitment with a woman that is half of who he is, if you will, because a marriage is only as good as the two components that come together to work and move as one, to see things as one. They both have different perspective, but they are in agreement towards the direction. But the direction, as man is made, is the one that make the deciding decision of what our direction is going to be. It's like having a captain on board that don't know how to handle a ship. Um, Speeding in the wrong direction and speeding in a direction that's dangerous. When we lead people, we got to be mindful of who we're leading. It's bad enough, if you will, that we mislead ourselves. I've done it for long enough to know it's not beneficial, obviously. We said earlier, sometimes you got to make a mistake to realize that was a mistake and try not to make the same mistake again. So that's called learning. That's fair. But then we start to look a little closer towards um, that, and I sometimes come away with, I can do better than this. What I did is wrong. Some things I might be able to walk back or go back and change and fix. Some things I'm not always able to. But the thing is to learn as I go forward. I try not making the same mistake over and over and over. So that challenge becomes quite a challenge to me. I see some, uh, my peers, if you will, I interact with other men and other friends, and I see things and I know things. Some things sit well with some people and others, and some don't. Um, because then I know at the end of the day, it starts to shape me to who I see myself to be and who I want to be, what I'm willing to do to work in that direction, and what it's going to take for me to be successful in the direction that I'm going. Coming back to being a better man, a better father, a better son, a better listener, a more patient person, better balance. I mean, all of the things we're discussing, it is truly a lifetime. Um, Very few of us, I know certainly not me, came with all of those things. And it was almost like shopping at a grocery store. And I start with an empty cart, and as I work my way to the door, I pick up the things that I need. So that that shopping cart, most of the time, if it's not full, it have a sufficient amount of things in there that I need. That's the whole purpose. But when you start to be encouraged and go after the things that is not easy to obtain, then I think that's where the growth lies. Uh, Scriptures say, look at this now. Solomon, truth of Solomon, so I read and understand and believe that God granted him wisdom. God said you could have asked for everything under the sun, but you didn't. You asked for wisdom, to have great good wisdom, to monitor, to lead these people, our people, your people. He's telling God to where you need me to lead them. I don't know how to do that. I need wisdom, and I'm asking you, could you grant me that so that I can do the job that you put in front of me? God said, not only will I make you the wisest man that ever walked the earth, I'm going to give you all of the things you didn't ask for. I'm going to give you the things of your heart. I know, beloved, what you need and what you don't need. You, my brother, God talking to me, don't know. You pray to me for things that you don't know what you ask. Imagine me praying for something that I think I need, but God said, that'll destroy you. You don't need that. That sound like the parents, right? That know better when the child acts and they, pardon my expression, swear up and down. Oh, I need this. If I only had this, I would. So I thought. But God knows what we don't know. And that's the difference between his level of knowing and my level of thinking. So those challenges, it's almost like, again, go back to the leader of the house. If he's leading you in a wrong direction, where do that put you? That puts you at risk. That put the family at risk. Why? Because he's leading the family. You know that old saying, do what I tell you to do, do as I tell you. I don't care how stupid or crazy it sounds. I'm your father, I'm the leader, I'm the man here. You do what I tell you. Sometimes a leader is more than one that just yells out orders. Because like I said, when they give you marching orders, if they're marching you to your death, at what point you say, you can't lead me anymore. I don't wish to die and I'm not following you. You're not a good leader. You're not my leader. Manhood is supposed to be the leader. That's the way God made it, and I'm not questioning it. All we're doing is looking at it. Once again, these are my opinions. These aren't anybody else's opinion. And these opinions lead me to my overall outcome in the way I see things, the way I look at things, the things that I like to look at. Everything is worth pondering, because just when I think there's nothing else to be learned in there, I find that I'm wrong. There's always more to be learned when you're open to learn. Almost like receptacle sometimes. But to do that, sometimes you have to shed some things about yourself. It's like the smartphone. You got to go into your settings, and you got to set it appropriate to what it is that you're trying to do. Notifications, turn this off, turn this on. Same thing with our thinking, our openness. Sometimes the exposure sometimes shows us what we look like. Sometimes to see yourself through the mirror, not knowing that's who you're looking at, like I said, not only you won't be so fast to judge, you kind of look at yourself and say, dang man, am I that bad? And then you look at yourself and you say, you're not as bad, you're worse. I mean, owning those things, owning change that need to be made, I believe is the beginning to that change. And I, you know what we need, what we what we mean when we say owning it and accepting the fault and saying, yeah, I stand corrected, man. When David found out that what he had did and jumping to conclusion to saying that man deserved death and that man deserved to pay back 150 times what he took from somebody else before the harshment of that judgment, like I said again, he didn't know that that same measurement will be used against you. If you judge your brother that way, scripture's telling me, so shall you be judged that way. So let's be fair. Let's be fair. I want to, remember, treat people how you want to be treated. I want to be treated fair. Talk about throwing yourself at the mercy of the judgment. I accepted my wrong and I'm sorry. And I see the error of that wrong. I pray to have an opportunity to change it and correct it. And that's what life is about and its growth. But coming back again to being a man, these are our straight responsibilities. Um, I use different things that come to my mind that shows me, and if you don't mind, sometimes I hesitate, but I'll show you too. It's giving you a little insight of my mind and how I think. Because when I think of those things, man, I look back and I say, oh boy, okay. Ooh, just when you think the work is done, you find you haven't started. Um, and no pain, no gain. I remember one time rushing my wife to the hospital, and we planned how this baby delivery would go, and I had my job was to bring the Anita Baker tapes this way, you know, when she's under the pain, she could put on some music and soothe the pain. The late that sister, that nurse looked at me and I know her grin now, but she grinned at me. I thought she was just being kind and sweet. You know, yeah, oh, look, he's having this little moment. She said, okay, well, just so you could relax for a minute, sweetie, because when she really starts to get busy, you won't see a smile on her face. So don't worry with the Nita Baker tapes and all of this and that. And I laughed to myself as I'm telling you because when part of my expression, all hell broke loose in that room, and she almost ripped my tongue and broke my knuckle and squeezed so hard I didn't know if my hand would ever work again. All of that planning went out the window as quick as it came in. Um, and excuse me for laughing, but it just goes to show me that sometimes my thinking of those things wasn't what it was at all. So I'm, I try to be gentle when I think of things are um, not only to come, what to expect, how it would be, what it's going to look like. Any given day could trigger any given movement. I don't know if you excuse my expression, when I'm going to be tested. It's almost like study. Scriptures say to me, study, God talking to me, study. I want to say it correctly, so bear with me. Study yourself approved. To me, God is saying. Um, And so my study is important. I believe that every day that God give me another day to walk the earth will be another lesson within the day. Sometime if I'm at the if if my vision is good, I see it. I don't I don't I didn't expect it at any given time. It's almost like be ready to give account of yourself. Um, be grounded, be ready, be I use that phrase a lot, be on duty, be on your post, be where you're supposed to be. You're guarding the door, be there, you know, and when you're there, be sharp and be ready so you don't overlook anything. You don't underlook anything. You're on point. It's nothing like it. Imagine somebody standing at my door all night like that. You get a guy, excuse me, I gotta share these depictions with you. You get a security guard sitting out your sitting out your door, supposed to be guarding you. He's fast asleep. He ain't even. Oh God, help me. He's not on point, and that's the difference between being on point and not on point. I want to be on point. I want to be sharp and ready. I don't want to be dizzy and I don't want to be fogged out. I want clarity before me, and I want to be balanced and how I would want myself to be. God is teaching me that. I personally at this point in my life, I'm enjoying the freedom of that. I like I told you, I you know I'm sorry, man, but I'm not a freak and I'm not souped up and I'm not trying to act like somebody I'm not. But I'm getting to be all right with discipline, man. There was one time me and discipline couldn't sit in the same place, man. No, it took me a while to allow it to become my friend and know the importance of such a friend. Imagine a friend tells you what they see and they're not shedded or guided or hidden from your truth. Because if you're gonna get better, then you gotta be told what you need to be told. And good part of that is everything that you're told you're not gonna like, but you need it. It's like going to the doctor and you're not feeling well and you want to feel better, and whatever it is that's ailing you, you believe in the treatment that they're giving you and you try it. And so when it starts to subside and you start to feel a difference in yourself, in your makeup, you know, that's encouraging. Man, I feel better. Hey, how you feel? Man, I feel 1,000% better. I'm not where I was before, but I can feel recovery. Um, those are the things that's important to us. Those are the things I would like us to start to shoot for in our growth. Um, Once again, in scripture, it bears witness to say that there's more, Solomon said, that there's more to gain in sorrow and sadness than in happiness and joy. I, it took me a while to, you know, look at that from a couple of different ways. But one of the ways that I noticed to say it does make sense, because when things are right, or at least you think in your mind everything is good, you're not bothered by anything, you're in high spirits, and everything is great, and life is great, and the whole 9 yards. But the minute some turmoil come, oh Lord, I'll speak for me, boy. Um, I, my behavior isn't very pretty. I don't like what I see, and it again sheds light on what I like to change about myself. The things I want to go after, these things matter. Please excuse me, I got a little construction going on my terrace there. I'll try to work through this because this is something that I wanted to do. As a matter of fact, if you don't mind, I'll ask you to just excuse me for a minute and just see what my position is. Please just stand by for a second. Thank you.